The humid Martinique night clung to Elodie like a damp shroud. Crickets chirped a frenetic symphony, punctuated by the mournful hoot of an owl. The 24-year-old woman, adorned with a single hibiscus behind her ear, walked briskly down the moonlit dirt road. A tense knot of worry sat in her stomach. Her grandfather, a wizened old man named Papa Joseph, had gone missing hours ago while tending their small banana plantation bordering the treacherous northern cliffs. Fear gnawed at Elodie. Papa Joseph, with his stories of mischievous Sukuyants and vengeful Jinn, had always warned her of the dangers lurking in the moonlit shadows. Tonight, those warnings felt terrifyingly real. Suddenly, a melodious laugh echoed from the dense foliage ahead. It was a sound both captivating and strangely unsettling. Elodie hesitated, her heart pounding against her ribs. Her grandmother, Mama Agath, a woman steeped in both African and Taino traditions, had once spoken of the Lajabless, a beautiful woman with a monstrous secret who lured men to their demise. Could that be what haunted the path tonight? The laugh came again, closer this time. It was followed by the soft rustle of leaves and the undeniable silhouette of a woman emerging from the trees. Bathed in the moonlight, she appeared like a vision. Cascading dark hair, emerald eyes that sparkled like the sea, and a figure draped in a flowing white dress. Elodie's breath hitched. This woman could have stepped out of one of Mama Agath's vibrant stories. "Are you lost, Sherry?" the woman purred, her voice a seductive melody. Her smile was a little too wide, revealing a hint of unnatural pointed canines. Elodie, momentarily mesmerized, blurted, "I'm looking for my grandfather. He went missing near the cliffs." The woman tilted her head, her eyes gleaming with an unsettling hunger. "The cliffs? Perhaps I can help. But it's a treacherous path, especially at night. Perhaps—" She leaned closer, her breath warm against Elodie's ear. "You could use some company?" Elodie swallowed, a shiver running down her spine. Mama Agath's warnings flashed in her mind, yet a frantic desperation gnawed at her. Could this woman really be the key to finding Papa Joseph? Hesitantly, Elodie nodded. Following the woman deeper into the shadowy woods, Elodie felt the air grow thick and cold. The ground, once a smooth dirt path, transformed into a maze of tangled roots and treacherous holes. The woman glided ahead, seemingly unfazed by the treacherous terrain. Elodie stumbled after her, her fear solidifying with each passing moment. The laughter, which had initially charmed her, now sent chills down her spine. It echoed through the trees, morphing into a series of barking howls, a nightmarish chorus that made Elodie long for the familiar chirping of crickets. Finally, they emerged from the thick foliage onto a rocky plateau, overlooking the dark, churning sea. The wind howled with a fury that seemed to mock Elodie's frantic pleas for her grandfather. The woman who had been so charming moments ago now stood shrouded in shadows, her face hidden behind her cascading hair. Terror surged through Elodie. "Where is he?" "Where's Papa Joseph?" she demanded, her voice trembling. The woman remained silent, the only sound the crashing of waves against the jagged rocks. Then, with a suddenness that made Elodie flinch, the woman spun around. Her white dress billowed around a horrifying figure. The lower half of her body was that of a grotesquely large cow, its hooves cloven and oozing with an unholy black ichor. Elodie screamed. A primal sound ripped from the depths of her terror. The Lajabless cackled, a sound like fingernails scraping against a chalkboard. "There's no point in screaming, little one," the Lajabless rasped. "You'll join your grandfather soon enough." Elodie stumbled backwards, a foot catching on a loose rock. The ground gave way beneath her, sending her tumbling toward the churning sea below. Her mind raced with images of her life flashing before her eyes. Papa Joseph's twinkling eyes, the scent of her grandmother's guava pastries. A strong hand grasped her wrist, pulling her back from the precipice. Dazed, Elodie looked up to see a figure bathed in moonlight, a tall, wiry man with kind eyes and a weathered face. He pulled her onto the solid ground, his grip surprisingly strong. "Are you all right, mademoiselle?" His voice was a calming rumble. Elodie gaped at him, her voice thick with terror. The Lajabless! She almost... Tears welled up in her eyes. The man, who introduced himself as Jean-Baptiste, a local fisherman known for his knowledge of the island's folklore, listened patiently to Elodie's frantic account. When she finished, a grim expression settled on his face. "The Lajabless," he muttered, stroking his beard thoughtfully. "A wicked creature indeed. But you were lucky, mademoiselle. Few escape her clutches." Relief washed over Elodie, so intense it almost made her dizzy. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion, "for saving me." Jean-Baptiste smiled faintly. "It was nothing. But there's more to this story, isn't there?" Elodie hesitated, then blurted out her fear for Papa Joseph. Jean-Baptiste listened intently, his gaze fixed on the churning sea below. Then with a sigh, he spoke. "The Lajabless preys on the lonely and desperate. But sometimes," he paused, his voice dropping to a low murmur, "she's just a tool used by those who wish to disappear." Elodie's heart hammered against her ribs. "Disappear? What do you mean?" Jean-Baptiste explained a legend passed down through generations of fishermen, a legend of a hidden cove, accessible only at night, a place where one could pay a hefty price to vanish without a trace. It was a cove rumored to be used by pirates, criminals, and anyone desperate to escape their past. Elodie felt a cold dread settle in her stomach. Could Papa Joseph, burdened by some unknown secret, have sought refuge in this mythical cove? The thought was horrifying. Determined to find out, Elodie pleaded with Jean-Baptiste to help her. He was hesitant at first, wary of the dangers lurking in the darkness. But Elodie's unwavering determination swayed him. Together, they set off along the cliff edge, Jean-Baptiste leading the way with a practiced eye. The journey was treacherous. The wind howled with a mournful fury, and crashing waves seemed to mock their efforts, their whitecaps flashing menacingly in the moonlight. Yet they pressed on, fueled by a desperate hope. Finally, after a few hours, they stumbled upon a hidden crevice in the cliff face. As Jean-Baptiste shone his lantern into the opening, a gasp escaped Elodie's lips. Inside, nestled amidst the jagged rocks, lay a small rickety boat. Elodie felt a surge of hope. Could this be the gateway to the hidden cove? Jean-Baptiste, however, remained cautious. He warned her of the possibility of pirates, or worse, waiting in the darkness. With a deep breath, Elodie steeled herself. "We have to check," she said, her voice surprisingly firm. "It's the only lead we have." Jean-Baptiste, seeing her resolve, nodded grimly. Together they climbed into the rickety vessel. Jean-Baptiste, skilled with a rowboat, navigated the treacherous waters with practiced ease. The hidden cove, when they finally emerged into it, was an ethereal sight. Bioluminescent plankton shimmered in the water, casting an eerie, otherworldly glow. In the distance, a small ramshackle hut sat perched on the rocky shore, its windows glowing with an orange light. As they approached the hut, a gruff voice boomed from within. "Who dares disturb this haven?" Elodie exchanged a nervous glance with Jean-Baptiste. Steeling herself, she explained their situation, her voice echoing eerily in the stillness. A long silence followed. Then the door creaked open, revealing a wizened old man with a long braided beard and eyes that glittered like polished obsidian. He listened to their story with an impassive expression. "Papa Joseph?" Elodie pleaded, her voice trembling. The old man, who introduced himself as Matthias, the keeper of the cove, shook his head. "No one by that name has come here recently." Dejection washed over Elodie. Had they come all this way for nothing? But then Matthias spoke again, his voice laced with suspicion. "You mentioned a woman with white petticoats, the Lajabless?" Elodie's head snapped up. "Yes. How did you know?" Matthias's eyes narrowed. "She sometimes brings business, those who wish to disappear, for a price." Elodie felt a flicker of hope. Then Papa Joseph could still be here? Matthias remained silent, stroking his beard thoughtfully. Finally, he spoke. "There is a way to find out, but it comes at a cost." Elodie swallowed, a knot forming in her stomach. "What kind of cost?" "A test," Matthias rasped, his voice like dry leaves rustling in the wind. "A glimpse into the past. But be warned, mademoiselle, the past can be a cruel teacher." Elodie glanced at Jean-Baptiste, his face etched with concern. But the thought of finding Papa Joseph, of finally getting answers, outweighed her fear. "I'll do it," she declared, her voice firm despite the tremor in her hands. Matthias nodded, a hint of a grim smile playing on his lips. He led them inside the hut, a dimly lit space filled with an assortment of trinkets and artifacts, seashells, animal bones, strange clay figurines with unsettling smiles. In the center of the room stood a large, ornately carved wooden chest, its surface etched with symbols that seemed to writhe and twist in the flickering lamplight. Matthias explained that the chest held a powerful magic, a way to peer into a person's recent past. But the magic was fickle, demanding a sacrifice, an object of significant emotional value. Tears welled up in Elodie's eyes. What could she possibly offer that held such value? Then she remembered the single hibiscus tucked behind her ear. It had been a gift from Papa Joseph, a token of his love and pride in her. It wasn't much, but it was all she had. With a trembling hand, she removed the flower and handed it to Matthias. He placed it on the chest, muttering an incantation in a language Elodie didn't understand. The room grew colder, the air crackling with unseen energy. The chest creaked open, revealing a swirling vortex of inky blackness within. "Look within, mademoiselle," Matthias commanded, his voice tinged with a hint of warning. "But remember, the past is not always what it seems." Elodie took a deep breath and stepped forward, peering into the abyss. Images flickered to life, a kaleidoscope of memories. She saw Papa Joseph working in the banana plantation, a worried frown etched on his face. Then she saw him arguing with a tall, imposing man with a cruel glint in his eyes. The man stormed off, leaving Papa Joseph visibly shaken. The images shifted again, showing Papa Joseph packing a small bag under the cover of darkness. He looked distraught, his eyes filled with a deep sadness. Finally, the scene cut to the cliff edge. Papa Joseph standing alone, his silhouette stark against the moonlit sky. The image froze, and a cold dread gripped Elodie's heart. Papa Joseph hadn't been taken by the Lajabless. He had jumped. But why? The answer remained a mystery. The vision abruptly ended, plunging the room back into darkness. Elodie stumbled back, tears streaming down her face. Jean-Baptiste rushed to her side, his arm a comforting presence. Matthias closed the chest, his face unreadable. "It seems your grandfather chose his own fate, mademoiselle." Elodie shook her head, refusing to believe it. "No, there has to be more. Why would he just jump?" Matthias shrugged, his voice devoid of sympathy. "Perhaps he had debts he couldn't repay. Perhaps he was running from something." Elodie glared at him, her anger rising. "You don't know him. He wouldn't just abandon everything." Jean-Baptiste squeezed her shoulder gently. "We need to get some rest, Elodie. We can think more clearly in the morning." Elodie knew he was right. Exhausted and emotionally drained, she agreed. Matthias offered them a small Spartan room within the hut. Despite the exhaustion gnawing at her, sleep wouldn't come. The image of Papa Joseph at the cliff edge haunted her, his reasons for jumping a terrifying enigma. As dawn painted the sky with streaks of orange and pink, Elodie woke with a renewed sense of purpose. Papa Joseph might be gone, but she wouldn't let his memory be tarnished by unanswered questions. She had to find out what drove him to such a desperate act. Together with Jean-Baptiste, she confronted Matthias, demanding answers. The old man, finally seeming to relent under her unwavering determination, revealed a dark secret. The man Papa Joseph had argued with was a notorious loan shark, known for his ruthless tactics. He had threatened Papa Joseph, driving him to the brink of despair. The revelation filled Elodie with a mix of anger and sorrow. Her grandfather, a kind and hard-working man, had been hounded by a predator, ultimately leading to his tragic demise. But amidst the grief, a seed of hope bloomed. Papa Joseph hadn't abandoned her. He had jumped to escape a life of fear and debt. With a heavy heart, Elodie and Jean-Baptiste left the hidden cove. They couldn't bring Papa Joseph back, but they could honor his memory. Elodie would use the knowledge she gained to settle his debt with the loan shark, ensuring his name wasn't sullied by any remaining financial burdens. Back in the village, the news of Papa Joseph's disappearance spread like wildfire. Whispers of the Lajabless followed Elodie like a shadow, but she held her head high, fueled by a newfound strength. She shared Matthias's revelation about the loan shark, exposing his predatory practices to the villagers. The villagers, initially hesitant, eventually united against the loan shark's cruelty. Together they pooled their resources to buy back the debts of those trapped in his clutches. The loan shark, facing a revolt and potential legal action, was forced to flee the island, leaving a trail of broken promises and shattered lives behind him. Elodie may not have saved her grandfather, but her actions had a ripple effect. She helped free others from the grip of fear and financial bondage, a legacy that resonated far beyond her own personal tragedy. Months later, a traveling storyteller arrived in the village. He spoke of a hidden cove, accessible only on certain nights, a place where one could disappear without a trace. But this time, he also spoke of a young woman who, with courage and determination, had exposed the darkness within that cove and brought a semblance of justice to the island. Elodie listened to the story, a bittersweet smile gracing her lips. The legend of the Lajabless remained, a cautionary tale against the dangers of the night and the allure of easy escape. But within it, a new story had been woven. The story of a woman who defied the shadows and found strength in the face of loss. It was a lesson etched in the very fabric of the island's folklore, a testament to the enduring human spirit that refuses to be extinguished by darkness.